So much, David. Thank you so much for having me here. Thank you, Jim, for the invitation. I think as a business person, if I put myself in ordinary business world, not One Young World, the notion I would have had 10 years ago that somebody said to me, transparency and sustainability all in one sentence, I'm not sure how much I could possibly have been listening. I think it's a daunting thing, but it's first brought home to me in 2008 when David Jones, our global boss, and I, in our work for trying to set up One Young World, which has very nearly killed me, we went to Geneva to meet with Kofi Annan with a singular purpose David and I had, that we would want him to come and speak to the young people at One Young World. And Kofi, in his way, had another singular purpose, which was to ask us to run his communications campaign in the run-up to COP15, which was the climate change control talks, United Nations in Copenhagen at the end of 2008. Many of you will be familiar with 2009, sorry. And that was really a scary thing, because this is when big bad advertising agency that does greenwash, whitewash, and all of those things for its clients suddenly hits campaigning for certainly the greatest convener in the world. Kofi has enormous powers of personal ability to convene people and world leaders and the great and the good. And suddenly to be in a position where we're trying to advise him on a space which he doesn't enjoy, which is campaigning, on how he might gather support for his climate justice agenda for the Copenhagen talks. So here we were with a campaign with no money, other than we put it in ourselves, which is fine to do, but you don't get a global campaign out of have us as prophets, that's for sure. So we had the Tick, Tick, Tick campaign, which some of you in the green space will know well. And we were recommending our brave idea, which was David's idea, which was brilliant, was rather than try and get media owners to give us space to run advertising in the old way, that we would ask our clients and ask companies that did advertising and marketing themselves to put Kofi's insignia and logos from his campaign on their ads. So EDF ran a commercial here in the UK and in France which carried Tick, 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 very brave, from EDF. So this was the plan, open source. When we went to Copenhagen, we had 17 million supporters, which was more than anybody else. Copenhagen had 800,000 the day before. Suddenly they had 4 million the next day. I don't think so. But anyway, there we were with the most supporters in these social media days. Even those were not so many. And hey, what did it matter? Copenhagen was a big failure in any case. But the difficult thing for us was that here we were as Havas with this open source collaborative campaign, and we had said to Kofi fairly early on, we were concerned because we have clients at Havas who are not necessarily on the same page on the climate change impact agenda, one of which being ExxonMobil, for example. And we were worried that Mr. Annan might find clients of ours offensive to him or have a problem in any way. And Anand's point of view was, everybody's got to be at the table. He said, every single people have to be at the table. There was one particular oil giant, and it wasn't Exxon, that he said he would have them at the table, but he would not be at the table himself because he particularly doesn't like them. However, his view was that in an open source campaign that progress could be made on the climate change agenda if everybody was there and nobody ruled out. So far, so good. But the GCCA, the Global Climate Change Alliance, many of you know it well, run by the absolutely brilliant Kelly Rigg these days out of Amsterdam. Kelly they have carried on using the Tick, Tick, Tick logo, and their campaign, if you're following them on Twitter, comes up under Tick, 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 and are doing absolutely amazing work everywhere around the world. But they regularly come up from criticism from a source in Canada, which keeps saying, how on earth can you speak to those completely despicable people that have us? They are the most awful people in the world. They have the most awful clients and blah, and they're an advertising agency, so they're not green, they're awful. So here you suddenly find yourself, and trust me, not ready for it at all, in the absolute heart of this thing, going, oh my God, you know, we can't do greenwash ourselves. We mustn't do whitewashing or greenwashing for our clients. Oh my God, but our clients want us to say certain things. What are we going to do now? And David's point of view in his book, which I see very conveniently someone has left here, in his book, Who Cares Wins, lays out a brief thesis which I just think really brings us to the heart of this issue today, which is this, that for people like myself, too many years in the marketing communications industry, there was a time, maybe in the early 2000s, where how we might communicate the virtues in the green sense or the any other good sense of various clients of ours or their products was a question of we could get a little bit of advantage, the age of advantage. And frankly, I took part in that myself. My group was the first group in my sector, my industry in the UK, to be carbon neutral in those good, simple, old-fashioned days where all we did was write a check and then we were carbon neutral and it looked good. We went carbon neutral on the same day as mighty, mighty Sky. There hangs another tale, me and James Murdoch. Anyway, so this was advantage where we looked to get a little bit of corporate first mover advantage, look a little bit cool, look a little bit head of the curve on top of things. All to the good. And moving on from that, we suddenly found ourselves, and I think I'm skipping here, but just to make it quick, we suddenly find ourselves in the age of damage, where if you are greenwashing or making claims you shouldn't really be, or somebody lifts up the carpet and finds a dead rat in your office, you are now in the age of damage. And I think it's a scary thing for the whole of business. The best example, of course, and I don't wish to give offense here, but it's just a fact and it's on public record, the best example, I think, has been with BP. A logo, a perfectly, and Pache, WPP and Landor, a logo which was perfectly sensible when it said BP, green letters on a yellow background, or the reverse, that suddenly was a green flower, and then Deepwater Horizon, and then absolutely no corporate ability to deal with the denizens of the social media sphere, is a story that you, as you are all in the sustainability world, know as well as I do, and you know the details. But what it was here we were, where you might have had a first mover kind of advantage and moved on from your age of image through this advantage to really age of damage, where what you were going to take for your greenwashing was real damage and really serious damage. And a huge, huge holing below the waterline of your little ship of trust. So we find ourselves in businesses today, and indeed acting for our clients, in an extremely difficult place where we have to counsel our clients, people like yourselves, that the age of damage has come for all of us, and it applies to me here also at Havas. Because at the moment that the fishes that swim in the social media deep decide that you have done something wrong, and should there be any truth to that view, the fishes will swim your way. And there ain't any corporate quick way to turn that thing off. If there is truth, you cannot turn it off. So here we all are in the age of damage. So in this debate, at one of the sustainability groups that we attend, happened to be a while ago in New York, about 18 months ago, the sustainability directors, as I call them, we used to call them, I think, the CSR directors, were many of them saying, well, the problem that we've got is we can't get the board attention or the funding that we need because the investment community does not invest in a company because it's got sustainability sorted or CSR sorted in the old way. Tragically, I think to date, that remains the case. I think the investment community does, and some of you are in the finance community, does behave in that way. But this is absolutely not the point. Once big investment, and here I mean the big funds and the pension funds and the real money, realize that if you are greenwashing and if you are somehow vulnerable to this kind of populist attack, and vulnerable means there would be truth in the substance of the attack, that investment community is not going to be so gung-ho about investing in you because you are vulnerable. The share price is vulnerable. No BP shareholder was joyful at the time about what happened to that share price, however much it may be coming back today. So here is great complexity, but there is absolutely no doubt in my mind that this age of transparency, okay, we can argue, and we talk about backgrounds. For my sins, I'm from a really bad world. I'm from advertising, but I trained as a lawyer. So this is a tough ask to everybody. What is the truth and how do you tell it? I'll tell you what I think. I don't think we have any choice. Wikipedia, the WikiLeaks story, many of these things have a source that is illegal. Even the MP's expenses scandal in this country, the source was illegal. That was a stolen file. Did we all moan about it? The hell we did. We were very pleased to get our hands on that information. I think the US government wasn't thrilled about the WikiLeaks diplomatic expose. I think the rest of us had a good giggle. But it does say, in this digitized world where the information is out there, where the email trail is there, what choice do we have? And I do not think it's D-Day for sustainability. I think for men and women of smarts, intelligence, faith, and belief, it's the best thing that could possibly have happened. Because you can't lie about sustainability, you can't do greenwashing anymore, but the consumer, the fishers, they know exactly where we are. So what does that say? I think in this thing, there is absolutely no choice. My counsel to the CEOs that I advise personally in my business is very simply, guys, you don't have a choice. You might as well get it all out there. The public will decide one way and another. Start cleaning up your act. Clean up your act right now. Be ready to answer questions. We sometimes find it very difficult when we're arguing transparency and then we're on a TV program and someone says, so what do you earn? Yeah? It's easy when it's Jeremy Paxman because you just say definitely less than you. Anyhow, transparency asks these things of us. And you know what? This can only be the best thing that has ever happened to the corporate world, but more importantly, to the world. And I think it means for corporate social responsibility, for sustainability directors, our time is now. This is it. But this age demands a few things. It absolutely demands authenticity. Because if you're going to do transparency, you better be the real deal underneath it. At the first One Young World Summit we had here in London, the chief executive of Burt's Bees in the States kept saying, and I just thought it was funny, and I know that you've all heard it, but I absolutely love it, and my American accent's rubbish, but some of you I'm sure could do it well. He kept saying, if it's going to be transparent, you better be buff. And I think that is a great way to look at it. So authenticity becomes the issue. Now, my David boss said to me, Kate, you know, it's all very well you go trotting off and doing this, okay, I'm carbon neutral and all the rest of it, and consulting with clients on corporate social responsibility, as we then called it, rather than just sustainability. But David said one of these days his clients is going to say to you or say to me, yeah, well, that's great, but what are you doing? And we're going to say, oh, we're not doing anything. And out of that came One Young World. And here again, you're in this area where now you're dealing with people in their early 20s, young potential leaders, from last year 171 countries, who, trust me, only understand transparency. I get a hard time from those Now we have about 2,500 of them around the world, and we'll shortly be up to 4,000. I get a hard time from them because they just say, you know, who's have us? Why do you own One Young World? What is the charitable status? Who's this? Why are those people sending people? I mean, you're going to get no quarter. So we were talking about it earlier, and we were saying, you know, there's with Cressy, we were saying, we all know there is a talent war afoot. We all know that. Anybody had a brilliant youngster stolen from them recently by Google? All my clients have. I certainly have. There's a talent war going around. But I do know from that generation, and some of you are that age group, that the ask in terms of transparency and sustainability from that age group is extremely high. Extremely, extremely high. So you want the best talent, you are going to have to be the best company. Now I know. And I could bang on for forever, but I asked for my time to be up at 10, 12 minutes. Only to say I do know, and we could bore each other here all night or fascinate each other till 2 in the morning when we talk about what this means for the investment community, for high finance, for the banking sector, for Goldman Sachs. There's all of that good stuff. But in this time of the shareholder spring, I think it's an invigorating and incredibly exciting time. It is the best time. I am a passionate dyed-in-the-wool capitalist, and I believe that this is now a chance when we fix capitalism, and it's going to be good for everybody. So thank you.